Hello everyone, Half a Jojo back at it again. Today we'll be watching some more fat acceptance TikTok videos, going through them, seeing what they're about. Most likely, definitely disagreeing with them. But anyway, I've got a few lined up. One of them towards the end isn't from a fat acceptance person really, but it's talking about weight loss and etc. So we'll just leave that one till the very end. But yeah, before I get into anything, I just want to say that if you like this kind of content, make sure you subscribe. We are almost at 1,000 subs, like 860-ish, almost there, just 140 more. I'd really appreciate it. But anyway, without any further ado, let's get into our first one, see what it's about. Okay, let's get started.
I'm truly loving how the fat acceptance movement allows people to grow, because
Pause.
it's not only teaching people that health and body size are not direct corollaries.
They are. Let's be for real. Yes, someone might be smaller and it might not necessarily be healthy, but if you're 500-600 pounds, you're not going to be healthy. Let's be for real.
Which is true, but also the bigger point,
not,
which
by
is
the way.
that health is not a requirement for people to be deserving of respect or equality.
Yeah, that's true. But why wouldn't you want to be healthy, right?
We hear this issue come up all the time in conversations around fatness, where people say things like, well, so long as you're healthy, which is basically to say that if a fat person does not have the privilege of health, then
Privilege of health, by the way. I mean, health isn't a privilege, it's just kind of a normal thing. Like your average person, whilst they're not like super healthy and fit or whatever, I mean, they're at least healthier than like a 500-600 pound person, right? I don't know, I just find it a bit silly. And I find that whole comment, oh, as long as you're healthy, a bit silly as well, because someone who's like ridiculously humongous, you know, I have to keep saying it now. It's just become part of my vocabulary now. But anyway, someone who's ridiculously like big, they're not going to be healthy. Again, I've said it like 3 times already. I don't know how many more times I'm going to say it. A fat person who's 400 pounds is not going to be healthy. There we are. That's like the 4th time saying it. But yeah, it's true. So that comment about as long as you're healthy is ridiculous, and that comment about health being a privilege is also just as ridiculous, because it's just kind of standard at this point. Like your average person can walk up the stairs without dying, you know, but a ridiculously overweight person can't. It's not a privilege. You're just putting yourself at a disadvantage, basically.
if a fat person does not have the privilege of health, then they deserve abuse and discrimination, where
Well, no one says they deserve abuse and discrimination. That's not necessarily true. I always say that, you know, you should probably make a healthy change if you're overweight. Being overweight is not good. Definitely make a difference in your life for the better. But I always say, don't be a dick to overweight people just because they're overweight. Don't look down on someone just because they're fat.
whereas I, as a healthy fat person, don't.
Are you a healthy fat person? I know I'm not trying to be funny, but I know a lot of people who are fat acceptance and stuff, they're like, oh, have you seen my blood work? Have you seen what I eat? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, first of all, your blood work doesn't determine everything in your body. Your blood work could be fine, but your heart could be fucking 2 minutes away from exploding. Let's be for real. You might not have high blood pressure, but your internal organs might be absolutely mulched to shit. You get me? Like, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong. Your blood work doesn't determine every single thing that's wrong with you. Like, for example, this conversation always comes up a lot when it comes to bodybuilders, right? A lot of bodybuilders are about, have you seen my blood work? I'm obviously natural. When you see guys the size of Arnold, for example, and it's like, well, yeah, your blood work's fine, but I can blatantly tell by looking at you that you have literally taken some sort of performance enhancer. You are huge. You're the size of a van. No one can get that way naturally. But then again, they show you their blood work. Oh, look, it's clean. I'm perfectly fine. But there's obviously something wrong going on there. And then in 10, 20 years' time, they're going to have heart issues because of taking steroids. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's the same thing, really, but just with overweight people.
Which is just nonsense. Understanding this is important because it's extremely tempting in the face of prejudice to cling to the health that we
Here we are, prejudice again.
experience and try to present it as a representation of our moral value in an attempt to try to alleviate some of the pain that fat phobia brings.
I genuinely didn't understand like a single word of that. I'm not even trying to be like, what's the word where you're trying to kind of downplay whatever the person's saying, but genuinely that just didn't make any sense. That was a whole lot of kind of waffle in my opinion. So I'm going to listen to it again. We're going to go through that exact thing again because none of that made sense to me whatsoever. Again, I'm not trying to be ridiculously mean to a lot of these people, but sometimes it doesn't make sense to me and I have to point it out. Yeah, I don't get it. So is what you're trying to say is, yeah, I mean, I'm genuinely trying to put it together in my head. So you're quote unquote experiencing prejudice. So you're clinging to the idea of health that makes you not perceived from a point of prejudice or something. I don't understand it. Genuinely, that's just a lot of word salad to me. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of university students. Or like or like left-leaning fucking, what's it called? White guy video essay kind of videos, you know, where it's like, oh, is this secretly like an allegory against blah blah blah? And it's like, no, not really. It's just a piece of media that you're looking way too much into. You know, it's like that kind of thing.
To alleviate some of the pain that fat phobia brings. But when we do that, we are unintentionally, or sometimes intentionally, taking fat people who do not experience health and throwing them under the bus.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, so I didn't really understand like the last half of that video at all. I'm not even trying to be like ignorant or anything like that. Genuinely, it just didn't make much sense to me, and I don't think I'm ever going to be able to understand where that person's coming from. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that at the end of the day, it's not a privilege to be healthy. It's not a privilege to be a normal weight or anything like that. It's just fucking normal. It's standard. But yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. It kind of screams to me like the typical kind of health at every size, fat acceptance kind of rhetoric about how you can have healthier fat people. I mean, obviously there is like a certain spectrum. So like the amount of fatness that you are, right? There are overweight people, there are obese people, and then there's like morbidly obese people, right? So someone who's morbidly obese is not going to be as healthy as someone who's slightly overweight. You could be slightly overweight and healthy, but if you're obese or morbidly obese, you're not healthy at all. Obesity is just as bad as morbid obesity, but it's just not as quick to, fuck you over, basically. But being slightly overweight, you'll probably be fine, you know. I mean, I'm probably slightly overweight at the moment, you know. As I know, I say X-fat, I am technically. Compared to what I used to be, I'm way, way, way smaller. And I'm nowhere near as fat as I used to be. But I'm still probably technically a little bit overweight when it comes to BMI and stuff like that. But, you know, I ain't mad about it. I'm still a lot healthier than I used to be. Way healthier than I used to be. Even down to the things I eat and the exercise I do, things like that, you know, my lifestyle just in general. So we've got another one here. POV, you're a fat person living in America. Okay, let's get to it. What's it like living as a fat person in America? We may never know, but maybe this video will answer our damn question.
Fat people are gonna if they don't lose weight.
That's true. If you don't lose weight and you're like morbidly obese or even obese, you can, unfortunately, you know, do that. I'm not going to say it because, you know, YouTube's a bit funny about me saying stuff, but you get it.
Oh, okay. Well, can I get some exercise clothes to go to the gym with?
Do you know what? This is a common point I've noticed among a lot of like particularly obese or morbidly obese people who would want to get into the gym. They always say, oh, you know, there's not enough kind of exercise clothes in our size, but you don't need all these like tight fitting fucking lycra outfits or whatever. Genuinely, all you need is a t-shirt and some trousers. That's what I wore all the time. You think that I had all this gym gear in my size? No, not really. I was like a 3XL in UK, which is quite big. A lot of the gym clothes I wanted to fit into either A, wouldn't fit, or they'd look ridiculous on me. I wore big oversized trousers and big oversized t-shirts. It does not need to look pretty when you're working out, because that's the whole point of losing weight, you know. You go from this to slimming down to then getting into the good exercise gear, and then you look a lot better when you're exercising, kind of thing. You know, you don't need the best gear to start at something. Like, even with YouTube, like I'm doing right here. What I'm using right now is I'm using my phone as like a virtual camera on my PC. I'm using a fucking shitty microphone on a bloody Razer headset or whatever. I've got a shitty little light box that I'm just pointing at myself. I haven't got the best equipment, and my phone keeps overheating during this recording session, so I'm having to cut out like big fucking bits. You get me? I don't have the best gear right now, even at this, but I do it anyway because I want to do it. And then eventually down the line, you start getting better at it. You start investing more. You know, when I start getting more subs, when I start uploading more frequently, getting into a better habit, stuff like that, then I start doing more. I start investing into more equipment. I start making better quality videos and stuff like that, if you get what I mean. It's the same with working out. You get shitty fucking oversized clothes when you start working out. You don't look the greatest, but then you slim down, you get the good fucking shit, and you start to look better. And you feel better. You don't need the best equipment, honestly. But anyway, let's keep going.
Can I get some exercise clothes to go to the gym with? No. Our clothes only go up to 2X.
Okay, but again, that's just exercise clothes. You could just wear, like, for example, what you're wearing there, like a t-shirt. It's no different. It really doesn't matter.
Okay, well, can I go to the gym to work out without people recording me?
Yeah.
That is not our responsibility.
I mean, it's not the gym's responsibility, though. Like, they can tell people, oh, don't record, or anything like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily their responsibility to enforce and crack down on every single instance of someone recording something. But you shouldn't be recording people at the gym, at least openly and like mockingly. You know, if you're recording yourself, someone happens to be in the background, but you're not being a dick about it and whatever. But you know, you get what I mean.
Okay, well, I went to the gym anyway, and
Good.
these people are actually really nice. But
They are,
I
yeah.
think something...
Generally, I would say to a lot of people who are scared to go into the gym, generally a lot of gym goers are very nice people. A lot of the biggest people you see, generally quite some of the nicest people you ever meet. So don't be too afraid. I know it can be daunting. You know, even I was a bit like, oh shit, at first. I started doing home workouts when I first started my fitness journey. When I first signed up for a gym, I was shitting it a little bit. I was like, you know what, I haven't been to a gym since I was probably like 10 years old. And even then, it wasn't like weights or anything. I was just on the fucking treadmill or something like that, you know. So I was a bit like, oh god, but no, it was alright in the end. Some of the nicest people, genuinely.
What's wrong? I'm not losing any weight. So can I get a doctor that treats my symptoms instead of just telling me to lose weight? Well, they went to medical school and got their degree.
So you went to the gym, but you're not losing weight. But however, again, there are multiple factors to losing weight. In fact, 90% of all the weight you'll lose will start with your diet. You could be the most disciplined person in the world. You could run fucking marathons. You could be fucking lifting every single day. But if your diet is dog shit, you're gonna either stay the same or you're gonna put on weight. You know? And I know I'm gonna say it, a lot of people say, oh, you know, I've been eating like 1,000 calories a day, but I'm still not losing weight. It's probably because you're not eating 1,000 calories a day. You know, and first of all, you shouldn't be eating 1,000 calories a day. That's like way too low for anyone, unless you're like literally a child. Yeah, a lot of people kind of lie about things like that. A lot of people lie about what they're eating, especially overweight people, because let's say it again, it's an addiction, right? It's an ED. So people are going to naturally lie about it, kind of like how people who are addicted to alcohol lie about how much they're drinking, you know? But yeah, you might be working out vigorously, you might be doing a great job, you might be burning loads of calories, but if you're not watching what you're eating, you're gonna not make any changes.
Well, can I get a doctor that treats my symptoms instead of just telling me to lose weight?
Well, what are your symptoms, first of all? Like, because if your symptoms are just, I'm not losing weight, then a doctor, you know, you might have a problem. Maybe you do. Who knows? But at the end of the day, a doctor's going to be like, first of all, I'm not a dietitian. Second of all, are you actually watching what you're eating? Because a lot of people say, oh, I've tried everything, but have you?
It's calories in, calories out.
That's true, it is calories in, calories out. If you're consuming more than you're putting out, then yeah, you're going to not lose weight.
Okay, well, I went to a bunch of specialists.
Okay.
And they said that I need weight loss surgeries.
Maybe. I mean, you don't need it. I can't see anyone needs weight loss surgery unless they're like literally 500 pounds and that close to, croaking it if they don't. But I wouldn't say there's many people that need it, but it can certainly help.
So I spent a bunch of money trying to get this surgery.
Yeah.
And now I can only eat 600 calories a day. But I'm not losing very much.
Oh, and if you're saying, then you're not eating 600 calories a day if that's the case. Because that's just not how it works. You're definitely eating more than that. And if you're saying, oh, well, physically cannot eat more than 600 calories, I don't think your body can distinguish between whether or not it can only eat 600 calories or not after a weight loss surgery. It's more to do with your stomach size. If you have a weight loss surgery, typically they shrink your stomach, they cut it up and they shrink it and they sew it back together kind of thing, right? That's kind of what it is. And then obviously probably cut off some fat and stuff like that. But yeah, so basically it's shrinking your stomach. Your stomach isn't going to be like, oh no, that's more than 600 calories, you can't be doing that. Your body is going to be like, okay, I can only fit this much food inside my stomach. So you could easily be eating like 2,000 calories worth of peanut butter. But obviously peanut butter doesn't take up that much room in your stomach. So it's not going to fucking burst it open, for example. So yeah, I don't really think that's how it works. If you are not losing weight, eating only 600 calories a day, then you're basically lying. Let's be honest, it's a lie. You're eating way more than that.
Calories a day, but I'm not losing very much weight. I really think that something is wrong. God, you fat people always complain about something.
I mean, the thing is, I know they're being like kind of passive aggressive. They're like, oh my god, this is what skinny people think of us. But it's like, it's not to do about complaining about something. It's to do with kind of taking accountability for your own actions. You cannot sit here and tell me that you're eating 600 calories a day and not losing weight. Put it this way. If you were in a coma for 2 months, let's say just 2 months, you will lose bloody weight. So how can you sit here and say, oh, I've only eaten 600 calories a day, but I haven't lost any weight, when your basal metabolic rate is probably like 3,000 or something like that because of how big you are? You're definitely losing weight only eating 600 calories. And if you're not, then you're not eating 600 calories. That's just how it works. If you were in a coma, you'd be dropping pounds like nothing because of how high your BMR is, your basal metabolic rate, your metabolism. Yeah, it's just silly points, really.
Just say that you want to be unhealthy. Well,
I mean, it must be that at this point, because honestly, it's not even just that. It's just about making excuses and not being accountable for your own actions and stuff like that.
no thanks to you, I found out that I have a genetic fat disorder that makes losing weight pretty much impossible.
Okay, again, this thing is such a common thing that is mentioned among overweight people, is that they mention fat genetic disorders and stuff like that. You know, they mention like fucking thyroid or lipedema, that kind of thing, and they'll be like, oh, it makes it possible, guys. It doesn't. It makes it hard, but not impossible. There are plenty of people who have all three of those things who still manage to lose it. You know, there's so many routes you can go down to: GLP-1s, just watching what you're eating, exercising, all three, and you'll be shedding the fucking pounds even if you have these disorders. It doesn't make it impossible, it makes it harder, not impossible. Yeah, again, guys, I just don't like this whole rhetoric of, oh, I have X disorder or X disease or whatever, so therefore I cannot do it. You can. It makes it harder, but you fucking can. Yeah, I just don't get this mindset that I'm in this kind of shape that I'm in at the moment. I've tried maybe a couple things and it hasn't worked out, so therefore I'm going to basically give up. It's impossible. It's not. You can do it. You just need to put a bit more time into it. You need to have patience, you need to practice consistency, persistence, and everything like that. And this whole thing about, oh, you know, I eat 600 calories a day, or I only eat 1,000 calories a day, but I'm still not losing weight. It's because you are not eating 1,000 calories a day. You are eating more than that because you're probably not tracking it, A, and if you are tracking it, you're not tracking it correctly. And you might be making a couple mistakes here and a few genuine mistakes that some people might make. For example, I remember talking about it before, but with the whole like cups of rice situation, a lot of people will get like a cup, dry scoop, uncooked rice, and they'll be like, okay, that's a cup of rice, so I'm going to eat that for dinner or whatever. But then that cup of rice that you've just cooked, that uncooked cup of rice, is like 1,000 calories. Generally, when they say cup of rice, they mean cooked rice. So that cup of cooked rice is like 200 calories. But it's a lot smaller of a portion, right? That's why you should always measure things in grams, not cups, because cups is unreliable. So is teaspoons, tablespoons. Just use grams. It's so much easier, genuinely. Just have like 60 grams of rice. That's a good portion, you know, stuff like that. I am not doubting that there are a few genuine mistakes, like measuring rice and stuff like that, which a lot of people go wrong on, but for the most part, a lot of people just straight up kind of be secret eating. It's like that one program, they got secret eaters. When you just put cameras around the house and you see them going in the fridge, just munching on shit and going buying chocolate bars and stuff and being like, oh, you know, I haven't eaten anything today, so I'm gonna have like 2 big chocolate bars or whatever. You know, that kind of thing. It's a common thing, and it is genuinely ED behavior. It's genuinely something that someone with an addiction would do, but no one ever sees it as that. They call you ridiculous when you tell them, yeah, you basically have an addiction. They're like, no, I can quit whenever, bro. That video was a bit silly. I disagree with everything in that video, but let's get on to our next one. Okay, so we have our next one here. So this reply says, do you really think that in the 60s and 70s there were millions of fat people who were hidden away so no one could see them, and we were so thick that without the benefit of the social media none of us would realize that a large number? I don't really understand the full context, but I'm guessing I've seen this person before. They probably said something like, oh, in the 1960s and 70s fat people were so oppressed that used to hide them away or some shit. I don't know, that's what I'm guessing. But you know, instead of it just being a fact that there were less fat people in the 60s and 70s because there was less processed bullshit and less people had more money to spend on buying fast food and junk and stuff like that, so a lot of people were eating, you know, just a little bit of meat and veg for their dinners and stuff like that, really.
I think we're asking the wrong questions.
Are we?
The question we should be asking ourselves is actually, how do thin people consistently exclude fat folks from spaces?
Go on, tell us, talk to us. What are we doing? What are us thin people doing?
Right, how are we consistently excluded from accessing spaces?
Like what?
Because I grew up in the 90s and early
Explain.
2000s, and I would wonder where the fat people were.
I mean, I grew up in that period as well. I can tell you where the fat people were, right fucking here. I was one of the fat people. And yeah, back then, it's like I said, like a couple years ago even, there wasn't as many fat people. But yeah, it's just generally a fact that within the last 25 years or so, the population has just become more and more obese. 100%. It has nothing to do with the fact that we're hiding away fat people or anything like that. The population has just become bigger and bigger every year, and it's a shame.
As someone whose body was seen to be a problem for a very young age.
I mean, if you are ridiculously big at a very young age, that is a problem. It's not right, and it's not fair on the kid, because you're going to be growing up not able to do stuff that a lot of the other kids can do. And it's not fun. You get excluded from a lot of things. And, you know, that person will probably agree with me. You do get excluded from a lot of things. You're overweight as a kid. And it is not fair because you can't help it, because it's to do a lot with what your parents are giving you and stuff like that. Because, you know, you can't make those choices for yourself when you're at such a young age. You know, you can't cook your own dinners or make your own breakfast and stuff like that. So, yeah, it is unfair. But it's up to you when you grow older to be like, I don't want to be like that the rest of my life, and make the difference. And to be honest, well, it's up to your parents to begin with in the first place, to be like, fuck me, we're all getting fat, let's make a choice before, you know, anything bad happens to either of us. or you know, maybe our child is going to get fucking bullied or something like that in school.
Whose body was seen to be a problem for a very young age, and everything that was taught to me as a young person, as a teen, was that I needed to prevent my fatness, I needed to control it, my body had
to... But that's rightfully so. It's nothing to do with like discriminating against someone or anything like that, and everything to do with protecting yourself and your own health and stuff like that. No one wants you to not be fat because they don't like the way it looks. Okay, that, I will say that is part of it, right? I don't think, personally, I don't like fatness. I think it isn't very attractive, in my opinion. I'm not really attracted to overweight or obese women. I shouldn't say necessarily overweight, because being slightly overweight, I don't really care. But if you're like quite big, then it's not attractive. But that's not really relevant. What is relevant is the fact that it's for your own health and things like that. You shouldn't be overweight because it causes so many fucking problems down the line. And if you're in like your 40s and 50s and you're still overweight, you're gonna have so many fucking problems. So many problems. It's not even funny.
A problem to be fixed. But
it is a problem to be fixed. That's the thing though, it genuinely is a problem to be fixed. It is something that is not going to benefit you in any way whatsoever. There is no net negatives at being a healthy weight, let's be honest. Name one negative about being a healthy weight. Oh, well, wait. And don't clutch at straws. Don't try and tell me, oh, you know, if I'm getting kidnapped by someone, then they're easier to pick me up and put me in a van. That's fucking dumb. That's a dumb criticism. That's a dumb fucking excuse for being overweight. I've seen that one before. It's ridiculous. Like, genuinely, I've seen some people say that. It's like, what the fuck? No. But yeah, anyway, being overweight is not good. It is a problem to be fixed.
I was consistently hearing that the average size in the UK is a size 16.
Yeah, I mean, that's not... I don't know about like 16 and stuff like that. It's generally kind of women's sizes, and I don't really know a lot about women's sizes, but I think that's considered like on the bigger size.
And I'm saying, okay, so I'm average, I'm normal.
Well, technically, you probably would be the average nowadays, yeah. But it doesn't really make it normal. Normal would be, you know, being a healthy weight.
But where are all the other plus size people?
What do you mean where are all the other plus size people? I see them everywhere I fucking go. You know, I think there's a shocking amount of them. Realistically, there's too many, if I'm being completely honest.
Where are all the other fat people?
Everywhere.
Why can't I find clothes in my size?
I don't know, probably because you're humongous. Sorry. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's true. If you can't find clothes your size, surely that is a wake-up call to be like, oh, maybe I should fucking do something then. I've, I can't remember where I mentioned it, but I made some sort of video, whether that be a short or one of these long-term videos. I can't fucking remember when, but I remember I told a story in one of them. I'll just retell it again. Basically, I was away. I think I was in like Philippines or something like that, and I was searching for clothes. Now in Philippines, people were smaller. Like the average height for like a man is like 5'5" or something like that. 5'4" maybe. Kind of downplaying it or whatever. So the sizes there, when they say 3X, it does not mean the same as like a UK 3X. A 3X is probably like a UK like fucking medium or something, or like even a large. So I was searching for clothes for ages and ages and ages. I tried on like 30 different t-shirts, not even exaggerating. None of them fit. And I thought to myself, fuck me, even if I am in another country, this is ridiculous. I need to do something about myself. So when I came back from that holiday, like a week after, do you know what? I went straight fucking back on it, and look at me, I haven't put it on ever since, and I'm way lighter than I used to be. And that was like 2 years ago now. I don't know how you can't kind of look at the fact that there's no clothes in your sizes and be like, fuck me, I have let myself go. I need to make the change, not society. You can't force society to make the changes for you. You have to change yourself for the better.
Why a space is not really designed for me.
Again, it's like I said, you can't expect everything to be designed for you. You can't expect all these different clothes pieces to have every single fucking size. You can't expect all these different like airlines to make the bloody aisles wider so you can fit down them or something like that. You cannot sit with this entitled ass fucking attitude and expect everything to change around you because you decided to be overweight. And I know, again, you're going to bring up disabilities and stuff like that. People in fucking wheelchairs did not decide one day, oh, you know what, I kind of want my legs to not work. You get what I mean? You decided to be overweight. You are making a conscious effort to eat and eat and eat. You are not making the change. And people like this specific individual are purposefully going out of their way to stay the same size because they think it's some sort of fucking, I don't know, some sort of movement against the man or something like that, you know, the man at the top or whatever, the fucking concept of the man itself or whatever, or we're raging against the machine or whatever the fuck. You're not doing nothing except for putting yourself at a disadvantage and then whining about the fact that you don't have clothes your size, whining about the fact that these things you can't fit into, whining about the fact that you can't fit into fairground wattage or something like that, when it's your fault and your responsibility to make the change for yourself. Again, I don't want to sound like a dick. I don't want to become like a I hate fat people kind of person, because I don't. I hate obesity and I hate fatness as a concept, and I hate the fact that people are fat, but I don't hate fat people because I don't hate anyone, because it's wrong to hate people just because of what they are, right? Regardless of whether that's something they can change or can't change, it's wrong to hate them for it. You know, I have been fat myself for my whole life. I know a lot of fat people, but I don't hate them. Do I like the fact that they're fat? No. Do I sometimes tell them probably make change? Yes, I do. But, you know, I don't get too preachy about it because no one, typically when it's someone you know, they don't listen to you. They're a bit like, oh, fuck off. But, you know, when it's a stranger, they're more likely to listen for some reason, which is a strange phenomenon, but it's kind of true. But yeah, I don't want to become like a radical, I hate fat people kind of person, because I don't. I've just got to put it out there. You are purposefully harming yourself and putting yourself at a disadvantage. But you don't want to admit that. You want to blame society for the way you are instead. You want to blame like the one or two people that told you when you were growing up that you should probably lose weight, and say that, oh, you're responsible for the fact that society hates fat people and stuff like that. It's like, no, they were probably just looking out for you. And even if they were being a dick about it, just tell them to piss off and move on.
Why am I not represented? Why am I...
Again, I hate this idea of like fatness needing to be represented in everything, like media or whatever. Like, oh, I watched an action film but there's no fat people in it, how can I feel represented? It's because fat people can't move around that much. Like, you're watching fucking John Wick and they're like diving around corners or whatever the fuck. Well, they don't in John Wick, but you get what I mean. They're like sliding around, they're throwing each other around, they're running upstairs and stuff. You ain't seen a fat person do that. A fat person ain't gonna be able to keep up, are they? Let's be honest. Like, that's why you're not represented in like action films and stuff.
I not see my body in TV, films, and books.
Again, like, I don't know. I just personally think that we don't need representation all the fucking time. Like, I watch a lot of things where maybe I'm not represented, but I still love it because it's good. You get me? Like, I don't care. When I was fat, I didn't give a shit that there wasn't any other fat heroes or fat romantic leads or anything like that, because you know why? Because I watched things that were good and I didn't give a shit whether someone like me was in it or not, because it's not important, because it's entertainment at the end of the day. You're supposed to be living out a fantasy. I don't know who fantasizes about being a fat person when you could fantasize about being a fucking 10-foot tall, absolute fucking muscular brick shithouse of a human being flinging around trucks or something. You get me?
So it's not that fat people didn't exist. And there
right.
are social media accounts dedicated to sharing the history of fat folks.
History of fat folks. Isn't that just history of people eating, right? People have always eaten, though.
Sharing photographs and videos of us throughout history.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there have been fat people throughout history, but like 100, 200 years ago, nowhere near as common. I just want to go into like a slight tangent about something that I always see, right? I always see a lot of fat activists and stuff bring up that, oh, You see, in like the medieval period, fat people were seen as desirable. You know, they had a lot of money or whatever. But the thing is, what people perceived as fat 500 years ago is probably different to what we perceive as fat now. People who had quite a good built physique were probably considered fat 500 years ago, because your average peasant was nowhere near that big. Your average peasant was probably quite lean, quite malnourished. So someone who was quite big, bulky, muscular, someone who's like a knight, for example, they were probably seen as fat, even though now we see them as quite, probably a bit muscular, probably a bit, you know, bosh, you know. But back then they were probably considered overweight, so it's nothing necessarily to do with being obese, but more to do with a perspective. For example, now our perspective is people who are slightly overweight for some reason aren't seen as overweight by your average population, because we're so used to seeing really, really big people, like 600-pound life, like the people you see on that kind of show. It's all to do with perspective rather than objective truth, rather than, oh, fat people were rich back then. Not necessarily. There probably still weren't that many obese people back then, apart from people like Henry VIII, right? For the most part, they were probably just a little bit bigger because, yes, they had more access to food, more better nutrition and stuff like that, and they were also fighting wars, and they were probably naturally a bit more muscular and bigger, and they were training, stuff like that. You get what I mean? Like a lot of knights, they would train. I know a little bit about medieval history. I didn't major in anything university or anything like that. I'm just a bit of a fucking nerd, and I like to look up things like this. But obviously, a lot of knights were training, whether it be sword fighting, you know, training with axes, blah blah blah, martial arts, wrestling, boxing. They were running, stuff like that. They were in better shape, and they had better access to food, and they were probably perceived as fat by the peasantry and stuff like that. But that's basically what I'm trying to get at. Okay, it's a slight tangent. You can skip this if you don't want to hear about it. But yeah, anyway.
So yes, we've always existed. But thin people have also consistently excluded fat folks from accessing certain spaces.
Like what?
So it's not...
Name one. I mean, I have no doubt that they do, because it's like I said, when I was a kid, I was excluded from a lot of the stuff that other kids were doing because I was fat and I couldn't keep up. You know, maybe if people were telling you, oh no, I'm not going to date you because you're fat, maybe you should stop and think for a minute. Wait, it isn't necessarily that this person is wrong. Maybe it's just that they don't like dating fat people, and I need to either A, lose weight so I have more options available, or B, move on with my life and just find someone else. You know, stuff like that. But anyway, let's finish it up. Only a couple seconds left.
We didn't exist. It's that we weren't welcome.
Well, yeah, it's not that you didn't exist. It's just that, again, there wasn't that many of you historically. Even 30, 40 years ago, there wasn't as many overweight people as there are now. It's not necessarily just to do with being excluded because you're overweight, but also because there wasn't as many. Like, it's only been within the last probably 30 years or so when the obese population started getting bigger and bigger and bigger throughout probably the 90s and early 2000s. That's when the shift kind of began, when there was a lot more fast food being peddled down and stuff like that. It's always existed, it's just gotten worse. But yeah, I've pretty much ranted throughout that whole video because I found a lot of the points, again, kind of moot, a bit ridiculous. I disagreed with a lot of it, and I think generally it has the kind of mindset that really kind of annoys me with a lot of these fat acceptance people, is that they will make constant excuses for why they're fat, and they'll blame society, they'll blame people for excluding them, like they'll blame, oh, these people who told me when I was a kid that I was overweight and I got offended or whatever. Like, you were overweight as a kid, that is not a good thing. I've got one more. Like I said, this isn't necessarily a fat acceptance video, but the opposite. I wanted to include it anyway because I saw the first 10 seconds. I haven't watched it all the way through yet, and I thought they made some pretty decent points, I feel like. But we're going to go through it, see whether I disagree or agree with everything in it. Again, first time watching. Right, so we've got one here. The American standard for what obesity is wild. I'm pretty sure I just touched on that a minute ago, actually. The standard of what's considered obese nowadays is becoming marginally more kind of warped. A lot of people perceive overweight people as not overweight, they see them as normal and stuff like that. But anyway, let's get into it.
Something that is so bizarre living in America is what people consider to be like fat and obese. I've lost 47 pounds.
Hey, congratulations on losing 47 pounds, by the way. You look absolutely terrific. Congratulations. Really well done. But yeah, again, like I said, it's not just America or US, it's the same here. It's just getting a bit ridiculous out here. You know, some people really wouldn't look at someone who's like overweight and they'll be like, oh yeah, no, that's just normal. It's normal to have like a big fucking belly or whatever. It's not.
I am still trying to lose weight. I was obese.
Fair enough. Me too. But I'm at the point now where I'm trying to put on muscle mass so that my metabolism kind of takes care of the rest. I've already gone down like from 152 kilograms to about a 91 that I'm sitting at right now. So I'm just going to try and gain muscle mass, and hopefully my metabolism will take care of the rest as I do more cardio and stuff as well. I'm back on doing cardio, and I said I was lazy with it in the previous video, so I'm trying to get back on it. I've got an exercise spike in the next room. I'll go on that for an hour every day, or at least every couple of days or so.
Told by a doctor I was obese. My doctor tried to get me on Ozempic. Like, they were very concerned about my weight. I had blood pressure, cholesterol.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I had a similar situation with nearly being diabetic. I was pre-diabetic, nearly had type 2. I had a lot of hypoglycemia and stuff like that. Obviously back then Ozempic wasn't as much of a thing, but I can guarantee if it was a thing, I probably would have been on it back in the day when I was a kid. But yeah, 100%. You're having all these health issues and stuff, especially in America, they tend to see a problem, they immediately want to throw some sort of drug at you, which, you know, if it helps, for example, with like Ozempic and stuff, I'm not like offended by it. That's kind of a good thing. But yeah, anyway.
I was already having health issues from my weight. I time and time again get my comments, my DMs, you're not obese.
That's the thing. Just like we said, so many people are so warped. They have warped perceptions of what being overweight or obese is nowadays.
You were never obese. You weren't even fat. Like, things like that.
Yeah.
I know I'll get people in my comments being like, you're still obese. Like,
I mean, the thing is, I've even had people tell me that I wasn't fat. I was ridiculously big. Like, look at these pictures here. I was humongous, right? I was big. I was probably a few steps away from being morbidly fucking obese because of how big I was. 150 kilos, 152. At the kind of period where I started losing weight, I was 152. But I've been more than that. I've probably been 160 at one point, if I'm being honest. Just didn't measure it on the scales. Yeah, it's warped. A lot of people will tell you, "Oh no, you're not fat," but you probably are. And it's fine to just accept the fact that you are. Like, we have this kind of culture or fatness now where we see it as being mean to just straight up be like, yeah, you are, but you can do something about it. If someone is obese, don't go up to them and be like, oh no, you're not fat, because they are. They are. Okay, let's be honest. And if they express, you know, I'm fat and I want to make change, don't be like, oh no, you're not fat. Just be like, okay, cool. I support you in what you're doing. You're losing weight. That's cool. Don't try and convince them they're not, because they fucking are, you know.
Like, whatever. I was on the lower end of being obese, and I'll say that. I was not morbidly obese. I was never like 300, 400, 500 pounds.
I mean, I was 300 pounds, but I was never like 400 or 500 pounds. I was probably close to about 400 pounds at one point, if I'm being honest, but you know.
Pounds. But I was still having health issues from my weight, and
100%.
I was obese. So it's crazy that being in
I've had similar things where like my breathing and stuff would be out of whack and shit like that and stuff like that. I had a lot of issues. I was lucky, really. I've always kind of had asthma, so my breathing's always been a bit shit, and still kind of is a bit shit. But especially when I was fatter, breathing was way fucking worse, way worse. It's just crazy. And then people will try and tell you that there's nothing wrong with you. It's like, there is. Don't try and tell me that there isn't. Don't lie to my face.
My weight, and I was obese. So it's crazy that being in America, that I could literally be having that much excess body fat to the point where I've lost 47 pounds and I still have excess body weight on me.
Yeah.
People try to tell me that I wasn't that fat. Crazy that like in America people are just so sensitive about the topic.
yeah, I don't get it personally. Like, I don't get why so many people are sensitive about obesity and stuff like that when it's really like not that much of like a sensitive topic. Let's be for real. I know a lot of people who are obese typically get fat because of mental health issues and stuff like that, so that's probably why it's a bit sensitive, with being for real. But there's a lot of people who don't have like mental health issues and stuff like that who are overweight and they still get really sensitive about it. It's like, I get it, body image issues is like a big thing, right? A lot of us have it, even when we're normal weight, even when we're healthy weight, a lot of us still have it. But when someone points out you're overweight, it's probably more for your health rather than the way you look. But yeah, that's all the videos I've got today. It's going to be a pain in the ass fucking editing this, because like I mentioned, my camera keeps malfunctioning, so it's probably like fucking half an hour of long pauses and stuff like that. Yeah, a lot of that is just absolutely ridiculous rhetoric, right? I think at the end of the day, obesity is not something to be glorified. We should not hate people for being fat. We should not hate fat people. But we can hate fatness as a concept. We can hate obesity and say it should be stopped. But a lot of overweight people, when you point out obesity is not a great thing and that it would be fucking great if it wasn't a thing anymore, they get so fucking uppity about it, being like, oh, you're fat phobic, you fucking piece of shit, this is so bad for the fat community or whatever. It's like, come on guys, that's just ridiculous. Like, you're twisting it around to try and make out that we're trying to eradicate you or something like that because of the way you are, rather than prevent something that's not necessarily good for you. I just don't get it. A lot of fat activists and stuff like that just have this perpetual victim mindset. They're always trying to compare themselves to people with disabilities or different marginalized groups, always trying to compare themselves to like black people, for example. And also a lot of them are trying to say that being against obesity is also racist somehow. Like, oh, if you don't like fatness, then you're anti-black or whatever. It's like, not really. But, there's like literally no fucking correlation there whatsoever. But go off, I guess. But anyway, that's everything I've got for today. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and leave like a donut emoji or something in the comments if you watched it all the way through, just so I know that you've seen it and everything like that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, of course, what you think about fat acceptance and accepting being obese, and particularly the last video, I'm interested to hear your perspective about it as well. Have you ever had anyone in your life tell you, oh no, you're not fat, when you've been previously obese or something like that? Because I certainly have, and it's not really helpful, but hey ho, we move on. Yeah, take care of yourselves guys, and I'll see you later. Have a good flipping day and everything like that, yeah?